In this session, we're going to discuss certificate reputation and how Venafi can help to establish reputation, identify misuse, and to assist with remediation. The challenges around certificate reputation, it's oftentimes hard to tell the difference between a good certificate and a bad one. It's also very difficult to detect when a stolen or forged certificate is used on the internet. It's also difficult to identify cryptographic vulnerabilities or weak crypto, and we oftentimes have a challenge of detecting rogue certificate authorities until it's too late. The tasks that are necessary to address these challenges are we need to detect and continuously monitor all certificates. It's not a one-time shot. We need to do this continuously. We also need to enforce policies for new certificates, so when certificates have been renewed, we want to make sure that they adhere to the corporate standards. We also want to validate the policy enforcement, meaning it's oftentimes easy to create policies, but you need to enforce them as well. We also need to notify if we see certificate behavior or patterns that don't look right on the internet or internal to the network. And then we need to remediate any security events that happen. So if we see something bad, we need to fix that. So how does Venafi help with this? On the protection side, we establish an inventory. This is both an internal and external inventory. We define policies with our policy engine to make sure that what we find adheres to the corporate standards. On the detection side, we want to notify if we find something that doesn't meet the standards, as well as something based on the reputation feeds. And on the response side, we provide certificate blacklisting, and using the policy engine, of course, we have enforcement to make sure that certificates are replaced and they're replaced properly. Now let's do a demonstration and look at this. So with Venafi TrustNet, we want to look at protect, detect, and respond to reputation and identify misuse. The way we do that is establishing inventory. If we look at the configuration of TrustNet, in my demo system, we're acting as a fictitious bank called the Nice Bank. In previous demonstrations, we've talked about the internal discovery capabilities of Venafi, so we won't go into that, but the discovery engine that's built into the Trust Protection Platform will find all the certificates within the enterprise. Using TrustNet, we're going to be able to look on the public internet, and we're looking for certificates that match our bank's name. So this could be certificates that either we've issued or perhaps certificates that are being misused on the internet that we don't know about. So TrustNet is going to look for these particular certificates, and then it's going to place them into a policy that I call TrustNet reported certificates. Once these certificates have been identified, they will be placed into this policy, and then I have visibility onto those. The next thing under Protect is looking at the definition of policies. Our policy engine, which again we've demonstrated that in previous demonstrations, but the policies allow us to specify what our corporate policies are. If I look at my dashboards and I go to certificates, I'll scroll up and we can see the critical alerts. I can also see things such as my unapproved CAs, my validity periods, and if I hover over a particular item, it will show me the details about that. So I can see information such as if there's SANS CSE controls around there, NIST issues, or PCI information. So I get immediate visibility about what's my policy violations and what I need to take action on. The next piece for TrustNet is Detect. And with Detect, what we want to do is we want to notify someone when we found something on the internet. The way that works is through the admin console. You'll notice that we have our logging view here, and under TrustNet, we have new reputations received as well as TrustNet's found new certificates. So remember what TrustNet's doing is it's looking on the public internet. If it finds something matches our bank's name, it's going to notify us about that. And so what the rule is, it just specifies if this event occurs, and then I can specify a target channel. Let's say I wanted to email someone, or if I wanted to open a ticket into a ticketing system, or perhaps send something to a SIM system, I have the ability to send that information so that someone knows immediately upon a certificate being found on the internet that matches what our bank's name is or a particular string that we're looking for. All right, and finally on the response side of things, let's go back over to the dashboard and let's look at the information that's coming from TrustNet. So with TrustNet, I can see that I have these certificates that are waiting for my review. I could click this. This is telling me that these certificates have been found by TrustNet, but they're not in my database, meaning my internal discovery engine did not find these, but they were on the internet. I have the ability to look at this particular certificate, for example. It tells me exactly what the problems are with this certificate. It also tells me the score of this certificate. So 1 to 100, and I can see immediately what the problems are with this certificate. I could then say I want to see all the properties about this certificate, and I would get all of the details, as you can see. But let's say that I recognize that this is a certificate that is something I'm interested in capturing. I do want this in my inventory. I can simply go back. I can select this certificate, and I could say I want to move this, and I want to move it to my certificates that are called public certificates, or maybe this is internal. This policy tree is completely configurable based on your environment. I could say I want to move this to public certificates. Click OK. And now that certificate is being moved, and now it is no longer counted. I had 32, now I have 31, because that certificate has now been moved out of what's TrustNet reported, and now I'm bringing it into my system. I could then also say that I want to look at, let's say I wanted to view all of the inventory. So I could go to my certificates, and let's say that I wanted to see a certificate that was just in the public certificates, for example. I could then say I want to look at this certificate, and I could, let's say I want to renew this now. So the problem with this certificate, you see, is the key is too short. So if I wanted to renew this certificate, I could renew it with a 2048-bit key, and this score would then go up because this key is no longer too short, and that would be a way for me to immediately remediate, based on policies, anything that TrustNet finds. I would then have the ability to download this key, or download the certificate and the key, and then if I wanted to install that on my load balancer, my web server, or I could have Trust Protection Platform install that for me. So going back to my dashboard, I also have the ability to see if there's any certificates that are awaiting for my review. So this shows me the total number, but here I can see exactly a breakdown. Let's say I wanted to see just the self-signed, or maybe something that's a duplicate CN. This is a particularly interesting item because it's a duplicate CN, but it's coming from an unapproved CA. So this is a potential man-in-the-middle attack occurring. So I could click on this, I could view that certificate, and see I could see my fraud protection at my bank. So I could click on this, get information about this. I can see the score is relatively high, but the problem is that this certificate came from a certificate authority that's not one of my CAs. So I get an idea about that, and I can take action on that. All right, so in summary, for reputation, identity, misuse, and remediation, the Venafi Trust Protection Platform and TrustNet gives you the ability to see certificates that are on the internet and have a reputational score based around those. So you have protect, detect, and respond to these issues. If you have any more questions, please contact us at Venafi. We are happy to help in any way possible. Thank you.